sampo pagyu trashi pa tuche tempe tinle yarngo da pelge drolor zampe zepar pande lame shab ade Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Nishasane karma uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane karma uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimu Nishasane Uta Varda Nishri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Je Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen korlo visu lekshune yela sambe dedem malupa gemel hunge drubra chinge lo tsoni sodan dikdun shapetse dinge namke yin so lekshune lapchen tsoni yonso tsopat cheran nyetun chanwara chinge lo chancho parge nyinsen tukuntu nyu peme siudro lekshune chancho drube gegen kunshishi Tungen de la drubra chingelo dagelo na chela chokpa da chemin samjor ngembash chedan tumbe de malupa bemel hunge drubra chingelo dorna tengne tsera thamche da techi pardo ne kab thamche tu rese kyamne lama kele me tukje chingi dala sikso so gongyab drewe nyamta da chala Jetsun lame tuje rab gongne kudan sunge nawa dralme to nyamsu nyongwe kesan tobra sho kewa kuntu yanda lama da drame cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yende dorje change kopa nyur tobu sho ya pakyuke kudan da gelu Pakyuke sungdan dage nga Pakyuke tukdan dage ye Tün yerme çıktı çingi lo Makyuke kudan dage lo Makyuke sungdan dage nga Tukdan dage ye tün yerme çıktı çingi lo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Sakyamunye Swaha Sashipeke Choshime To Chamare Rabalingashi Nide Gempadi Sangye Shintu Te Ulawar Ki Drukunam Da Shingla Che Par Shoyidam Guru Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryatayami Sangye Chedan Tsoki Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam King Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chedan Tsoki Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam King Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparsho Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Namo yal haye ke dan ludan ne jin ke rubundan da mi ke namda Rawa kuinge dhanama chi tsampa thamche ke tu taki chete.
Good morning.
Una volta, qualche anno fa,
Once, some years ago,
ho letto
I read
questo passaggio
this passage inside
di un articolo
of an article
nel quale diceva
in which it
che
was
la maggior
said
parte
that
dei nostri
the
pensieri,
majority of our thoughts,
parlava del circa il
and it was
90%,
speaking about like 90% of our thoughts,
sono
are
ripetizioni di pensieri.
repetitions of previous thoughts.
Poi che sia il 90, che sia il
And
10,
whether
che
it
sia il
is
99,
90 or 80 or 99,
a me non è che importa più di tanto,
it
non
really
siamo
doesn't
tecnici
matter
su
to me
questo.
so much. It's not a technical matter.
Fatto sta
But
che
the fact is
noi
that
quello che facciamo
what we do
è che gran parte dei
is
nostri
that the
pensieri,
majority of our thoughts, of our ideas,
pensieri in tutti i sensi,
yeah,
quando andiamo a
thoughts on many
ripetere
levels, we go and repeat the ones that we have already had in the
colore un po'
past. Maybe
diverso,
we give them a little a
in
color a
modo
bit
da
different, we
più
modify them in a different way, but more or less it's the
quello che ci
same.
permette
What
avere
allows us
pensieri
to have
diversi, vedere delle cose
different thoughts and to see things in a different way?
delle nuove interazioni.
New interactions, mainly that.
E quando noi ci troviamo
And when
dinanzi a
we
qualcosa
find ourselves
che
in
va a
front of
rompere
something that breaks
spesso quel meccanismo in cui
that
ci siamo abituati da
mechanism in
tempo,
which we are already used to
poi noi
be
siamo
in,
fatti in gran
because
parte
we
di
are made
abitudini.
mostly by
Non è
habits.
questione solo di
It's not
ripetere i
only a
pensieri
matter
da
of
un punto di vista
repeating
concettuale,
the thoughts on a conceptual plane,
ma è
but
ripeterli
it's
per
also
creare il
repeating the
contesto
same
in
internal
cui siamo noiosi,
dialogues. We are boring,
o no?
aren't we?
Non so, non so come siete voi, però
I don't know about you, but
mi immagino.
I can imagine
Tutti noi, perché non è che
we
basta capire uno e hai capito tutti,
I mean, we just have to understand one, and then we have understood everything, everyone. I don't know how many of you are so creative that you have a different internal dialogue every day. I think more or less we are going around the same themes. And we go there and we go around that, and then we have reactions, and they are more or less the same because we are made by habits. And so, on one hand, we are made of habits, and we repeat the same thoughts, the same things. We go around and around. Also, because we have a phase, an important phase in our life, that is the period in which we get to know and learn. Not only on a conceptual level, but also mostly on an emotional level, and from the point of view of our identity. And that is the phase of our childhood. When we are child, we see something for the first time and we ask what it is. Maybe we don't put like the question formally, but we try to understand what that is, and we try to imitate the others around us. And slowly we go and build our view of the world. And in this process, we get to learn many things. So there is a first experience. What is that? I don't know. Let's go and figure out and to get points of reference that we already have, and we imitate the ones around us, and slowly we learn. The next time that we get to meet that thing, then we don't need to learn that thing. We already know it, and we kind of re-know it. And I make an internal search, and okay, I take the image that I already have and I put it on top of that thing. And the more we go forward, the less we learn, and the more we get into this process. And what happens at the same time is that, how can I say in a very simple way? When I get to know something, there are many factors, and two mostly. Okay, like I hear the sound of the bell, I meet someone, I leave a situation, whatever it is. When I say I I recognize what happened, there are two parts. There is the part of that there is the object that I'm seeing, the situation that is around me, the words, the sound, the energy, whatever. And then on the other side there is us. How I find myself in that moment. What is my knowledge, my emotion, on every aspect, how am I in that moment? How many times has it happened to you that you have seen a movie more than once in different times during your life? And that it seemed like a different movie. To me, it happened to see like a movie that I really found extremely funny. Then years after, I tell someone, "Ah, look at this movie, so nice." And could I find this funny? And how could I entertain myself with this? But what does it happen when we see a movie years after? Did like someone come and change the scenes or something? What actually changed? The observer. But also life is like that. But when I saw that movie, I say, okay, I've already seen that movie. I really believe that. But if I go and see that movie again today, it's not the same movie, because the experience of seeing the movie is made both by the images and the sounds and by the observer. And so, when we say that we know something, that we know how it is, we remain grasped to an image of how we believe the thing how the thing is, even when years have passed and we have changed a lot, without taking into consideration the fact that also the object itself is changing. The situation is never exactly the same, and also the people constantly change. But we are in that idea, okay, I know it.
Facciamo lo stesso anche di noi con noi stessi.
And we also do the same with ourselves.
Perciò più passa il
And
tempo,
so the
più noi
more time
come
passes
abbiamo
by,
più
the more
conoscere sempre
we
di più
get
e
to
siamo convinti ormai.
recognize things and we believe that we really know them.
Una delle cose per me più belle che
One of the
dobbiamo
most beautiful things for me that we should really try to keep alive is our curiosity,
insieme con questa umiltà
put together with a sort of
che è
humility
in qualche modo
that
non
is
avere la
the
pretesa di
not
sapere
having the
tutto,
pretense of knowing how things are,
ma di aprirsi
but to open up
e avere anche questa gioia di
and to have also this joy in seeing things again and to try to see them with different eyes.
comunque sia.
Anyway,
Da un lato ci siamo noi
on
che
one side
ormai
there is
conosciamo
us and we already know everything.
siamo fatti di abitudini,
We are made by habits.
addirittura conosciamo come siamo
Even
fatti noi.
we know how we are made. I don't know if you've ever said
Io sono così.
I am like this.
Ma quando noi diciamo io sono così,
But when
noi
we
ci
say I
riferiamo
am like this,
a
we
qualcosa che sta
are
avvenendo in
referring
questo
to
istante,
something that is happening in this moment or to something that is like a way of being that is about the past,
prevalentemente
predominantly to the past.
perciò abbiamo questa
And
pretesa.
so we have this pretense with ourselves that I am like this.
Perciò siamo fatti di
So we are
abitudini,
made by habits,
conosciamo, sappiamo tutto,
we know everything,
siamo noiosi che
we are
ripetiamo
boring and we repeat the same thoughts.
ok? E questo è quello che abbiamo
And
da un
this is what we have on one side. On the other side, there is another aspect which for me is magical. It's like really a foolishness in for some kind. How to transmit knowledge from one person to the other.
perché se noi dobbiamo
Because
insegnare
if we have to teach something to someone,
quali sono gli strumenti
what are the tools that we have, the only tools, real tools that we have to make someone else understand something?
la conoscenza e l'esperienza che l'altra
We
persona
have
ci
the
dà,
knowledge and experience that the other person has, and our own experience and
però noi non
knowledge.
possiamo
But we can't
far capire qualcosa a
make
qualcuno se non
someone
facciamo
understand
qualcosa
something
per
if not by understanding something that the other person already knows.
credo che sia chiaro questo,
I think this is clear, right?
ed è strano
And it's strange to think like this,
perché
because
vuol dire che
this
nel
means
momento in cui
that in the
qualcuno ci
moment that
insegna
someone is
qualcosa,
teaching us something, in reality, what he's
aiutarci
doing
a
is
usare quello che
he
noi
is
abbiamo
helping us to use what we already have to put
aprire
it
la
together in
nostra
different
mente
ways
nuovo.
and to open up the mind to understand something new.
E quando questo succede
And when this happens, it's like a magic.
è strano vedere.
It's strange to see this thing somehow.
E questa magia è importante.
And this magic is really important, this sort of miracle.
Riusciamo quando
When we are able to have this interaction and someone helps us
ci aiuta
to
a
see
vedere qualcosa che prima
something that we couldn't see before.
ci guida, ci fa vedere
It's,
un
that
percorso.
it's guiding us and through a path that to something that we didn't know before.
Quello che è fondamentale
What is fundamental for us is that we transform ourselves
a seconda delle interazioni che noi viviamo nella vita.
according to the interactions that we have on our life.
Perciò
And so
mi ricordo
I remember once
andato a vivere
when I was living in India and I was 12 years old and I just started living there. There was a ceremony of recognition as a tulku. There was Lama Ganchen, my parents. There was this moment in which Lama Ganchen was speaking with my parents and with us a bit in a formal way and was telling them, trying to explain them why was I supposed to do those years of study, even if it was my will to go there.
piccolo fare quegli anni di
But why was it important to do those years as a child?
la sua mente
And Rinpoche said, you see, his mind is like a pure crystal. If you take this pure crystal and you put it in the middle of shit, what does it reflect?
merda.
Shit. If you take this pure crystal and you put it in the middle of light, what does it reflect? Light. That's what we want. And what he said, if you give him an education, giving many input that are not sane, then eventually he will get them. And so, what I want to say is that we, according to where we are and the situation that we live and the interactions that we have, and not only about who are the people, what we hear, what are the experiences, all of this interacts, and this interaction makes it so that slowly we transform ourselves, of course using what we already know. And this is one of the most important keys for us, that is, to choose in the path of our life some sane interactions. Because our freedom partly is really in trying to find the right interactions. Because when there is an interaction, willing or not willing, some change is happening. And so it becomes important for us to choose a sane context. And this remembers me of way of saying, look at the context around you, the people that you're with and you interact with in your job, when you're studying, and something like that. Your environment, your normal environment. Are you the smartest of all? Then it's not a good thing, then it's not a good sign. Because ideally, we should be with people that have something more than us. And through that interaction, they help us to grow. This doesn't mean that if we are with someone that knows less, then we can't grow. I'm not saying this, but the point is that we have to choose context and people situation that help us grow. And that in this interaction help us to move that part of us that we want to improve. And this means to create sane interactions on a physical level, on a mental level. And this also remembers me a scene that made me smile a lot and reflect mostly, is that I got to Brazil and I was in my dad's house and I turned on the TV, just kind of randomly, and there was a show, a soap opera, and it was based on basically the poorest part of the population. Generally, the shows are based on rich people, and that one was showing like the lives of simple and poor people, and it was made like that. There was the scene of a married woman that at a certain point her husband was there, and they were at home, and they buy a beautiful sofa and they put it there. And at a certain point, the husband loses the job and he finds himself there the whole day. The woman goes to work and is out the whole day, and she comes back and the husband is still on the couch, and the day after still the same, and the husband is always there on the couch. Certain point she starts to get tired with that, and she has an affair with someone else, and at a certain point she comes back from work and her husband is dead on the couch. Okay, then I find another man, and that man comes home to live with her, and she's really happy, and everything is fine. And after a while, where is the husband? On the sofa, on the couch. After a few days, She says, he doesn't look to me anymore, he doesn't speak to me anymore. And at a certain point, there is the scene after that that she just throws the couch out of the window. In a very simple way, she was saying, uh, that my first husband, it was not his fault, but it was the fault of the couch. And so Dios also remembers me of interesting research called the Truth About Life, showing a study about human behavior, where the scientist is able to show that the human behavior very often depends mostly on the context rather than on anything else. For example, one of the questions that the researcher asks is that, what do you think as the biggest tendency to steal? Because he was doing the same experience on to show how many people were willing to steal in different countries like Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Brazil, United States. He went in many different countries all over the world doing the same experiment. Do you think that among like Italy and Sweden, which one is stealing the more, or Pakistan or Brazil? The final question is that everywhere is the same. Put in the same conditions, the the result was exactly the same. And this really shows how that we are strongly influenced by the context in which we are in, by the interactions that we have around us. And this, for us, means that it's really important for us to choose the sane interactions. And inside of this, in this choice of sane interactions, there is a type of interaction that is extremely important since our childhood, since our birth and until our death, actually. That we somehow know its importance and we try to keep it, sometimes with success, sometimes not. That is, the interactions that help us to generate a sense of belonging and love and affection, that generate an internal sense of security. How important is for a child, for a newborn, to have the mother present, to have the father present. How important is it during childhood to have this affection in a coherent way, possibly? That's fundamental. We see stories and stories of people that during a certain phase didn't have that love, and during their whole life sometimes they try to fill that void. And so, after that, that is, after childhood, after that, we try to make connections where we can reconnect with that sense. But the interesting thing is that that feeling doesn't depend on the other, but depends on us. And that is, sometimes we believe that it depends by the other so that I can love the other person. I don't know if this is clear. We have this sensation that maybe this idea, in order for me to love you, you know, to be like this, you shouldn't behave like that. If you do something, if you don't do that, if you're in this way, if you're not in the other way, then if it's so, then I can love you. If you don't do this anymore, if you don't give this to me anymore, if you act in this way, then I can't love you. We put some kind of conditions. And if we have this kind of feeling of love, we we live it as if it was, as if it will depend on the other person, on the other being, this feeling that we have, as if it's the other that allows us to have this feeling. But actually, the other is a condition through which we are able to get in touch with something that we already have inside of us. And the other helps us to get in touch with the most beautiful part of us.
Sentivo qualche giorno fa
I was hearing some days ago an interview of a neuroscientist that was helping, was talking about the power of affection.
ed è pazzesco perché, per esempio, diceva
And it's crazy because he was saying that, okay, when we eat something,
quando stiamo mangiando,
when we are eating a dish, whatever it is,
se nel
if
momento di mangiare
as we are eating,
che c'è davanti chi ci fa il
and
piatto,
the person is in front
c'è
of
uno
us,
scambio di amore,
and the person that cooked the dish, there is like
che
some
cambia
affection
le
that
nostre
increases our oxytocin, that changes
percepiscono
our palate, the way we perceive taste.
quindi non è che il cibo
And
fa
so
ancora
it's
molto
not
più
that
buono
the
per
food made by love
fisicamente è più
it's more tasty. No, physically it's more tasty.
qualunque situazione noi
Whatever
abbiamo dei nostri
situation
dove c'è un sentimento
in which
di
we are
amore,
involved with our senses, where there is a sense of belonging, affection, love, on a physical level, we feel that much with much more pleasure and in a totally different way.
e questa è l'importanza per noi
And that is for
di
us the
coltivare
importance to cultivate
oltre che
these
tutti gli aspetti di
feelings,
come fa bene per la
other
salute,
than all the other aspects that for which it's good for health.
di cui ho parlato un po' di
There was
tempo
also
fa,
an experiment
questa dottoressa che
of which I talked a while ago about this doctor that won also a Nobel Prize for this research, and she saw that there is a part of the DNA. I don't remember. I actually don't really listen to these technical parts with very much attention. I'm not sure it was DNA, but in general, it defines how long a life of a person is. When this thing is longer, then it means that the person is able to have a longer life. When it's shorter, that is one of the more clear signs that the person wants to be able to have a long life. And so she got to pick people, women that had to grow the children by themselves without the husband, and that were all children that had like a serious problem of handicap, illness, physical and mental limitations, that had no support and that had to do that on their own. Women that for years had been in a situation, in a difficult situation. So with children, with a child or with a serious problem, and that they had to carry it on their own. And so she picks all these women, and there were many, and she starts to do some research with them, and she goes and see how was this piece, this part, this sign that shows the deepest quality of life of a person, and she sees that all these women have it really low. They're really bad, and at a certain point she makes them get to know each other and to connect with each other, and she's telling them, okay, look, you're women, you're in the same situation, you have children in a similar situation, and they start to create empathy among them and to help each other and to create a sense of belonging among them. And not only their lives changes a lot, but 6 months after these new relationships, she goes and she does these experiments again, and she finds out that it went back to normal. And this shows that the fact of being able to to be seen, to connect, to be loved, and to love. This has a tremendous power for the health, for the well-being, physical well-being, other than mental and emotional. And so, when we say that selfishly speaking is better to be altruistic, that's also true on a scientific plane. Because the closest we are on our own, the more at the end we are miserable. The more we are worried about what I want and when I want it, now I want it, because that's my need, that's my necessity, because according to me, we are boring. And the more we stay also in this, and this becomes also the center, we are repetitive, we are boring. This becomes a habit. At a certain point, we can't see anything else but that. And we need to allow ourselves to go beyond that. And the beautiful thing is that in order to get in touch with the most beautiful part of us, because an interesting thing is that also our body is what makes us, what gives us the signal that we're doing the right or wrong thing. When the body gets sick, it means that we're doing the wrong thing. And when the body is healthy, it means that we are doing the right thing. And what are the feelings, the signs that the body is reacting well? Obsession to self-gratification, distance, individualism, selfishness, or affection, love, altruism, connection, sense of belonging. What are among these two the signs that the body is reacting better? Much, 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 much better with the part of love and connection, the part of offering, of belonging. This is the part that really speaks more. But here, what happens is that it depends on us. But as I was saying before, the interesting part is that in order to get in touch with this sense, this most beautiful part of us, because it's it's not possible without getting in touch with the other. It's the other that allows us to get in touch with the most beautiful part of us. But in order to do that, we need to be able to see the other, to allow ourselves that. And this is an exercise that it's not obvious. To be there in front of another being, a person, an animal, an insect, whatever, and to allow ourselves to see that other being aside of the function that it has for me. And we shouldn't fall in the trap of that I want to love you because I want to be the good Buddhist. No, because the bodhicitta, because all the sentient beings have happiness and its causes. I must develop this sense of altruism because it's the right thing, because the Lamas say this and that. And then at the end, actually, I don't really care about you. What I care is about being a good Buddhist, the bodhisattva of the situation. I don't know if this is clear. Let's be careful to not fall into that trap. This is one of the causes for which this process needs to be done in secret. No one needs to know. I don't need to show the world that I am altruistic. Once a friend of mine, I had a shirt. It had a different meaning, but the shirt was saying, "Today is my Bodhisattva day." This friend had this shirt, but it was saying that he didn't put on that shirt to show the others, but to remember himself. Maybe you don't need to write it, but what happens is that the other allows us to get in touch with the most beautiful part that we have. But it depends on us to allow that. And that doesn't mean to go and find strange situations. The Lojong and the mental training of Lojong says it very clearly. We need to leave this process in the context that it's the closest to us and with the people that are closest to us, with the people of our everyday life, with the family, with the friends, with the job, with the people that we live with in our daily life. And we need to learn and allow ourselves to be able to see the other. That's where we have to train in love and compassion and respect, gratitude, and not in an idealized context. Oh, I have much love and compassion to those beings that I will never see, but sometimes I see the pictures of. Or I have that love for that being that is very kind for me, that never annoys me and does everything that I want. There is my dog. It's great to have love for the dog, but you also need to have it also for the neighbor, for the ones around you, for the people at work. And this brings us to another point that we already mentioned of, without going too long on it. We can't become something if not by starting with what we already have, with what we already are. In order to learn something, we need to use the tools that we already have. The basis of knowledge is the one that we already know, that we already have. And that is the basis to become something else. Are we selfish or altruistic? We are quite selfish. So at the end, how much importance do we give to the I and mine? Much importance. And so we need to use this selfishness to help us to get out of the selfishness. And that is by slowly understanding, experiencing how good it is for me to open the heart, to see the other, to feel that feeling of affection, of love towards the other. And when I'm able to see how much that is good for me, then slowly I allow myself to generate that more and more until it becomes natural and spontaneous. Actually, today I want to talk about something different, but as it often happens by doing an introduction, I lose myself in the introduction, but I mentioned briefly what the argument was supposed to be. In order for us to be able to transform, we need interaction. And we need to choose the most possible, the most sane interactions possible. Places, people, various situations. Then when we have situations that are not healthy, it depends by the way that I pose myself into that situation. I mean, the situation is not objective, it's the way to relate with that. So let's not victimize ourselves. Lama said that I should have a healthy context, look where I am. The way we put ourselves, we relate with the situations, makes a difference. But at the same time, it's important for us to create human connections that are the same as possible. And those are the ones based on virtuous feelings, and that also this interaction helps us to grow ourselves. And this in life is really important, to have people with which, by interacting with them, they help us to grow. And that is the primary function also of the guru. When inside the vision of Buddhism we see the importance of trusting a physical guide. One of the most important things here is very basic, is that through that we are able to grow at least one relationship, partly idealized, but to build one relationship that is based on trust, love, with affection, where I am able to see the other and I feel that I am loved and I can trust. And it is very important for us to have that feeling that we are loved and that I can trust. This is something that it's fundamental for us to have this kind of feeling. And so in the process of our lives, ideally the more people that we have with, the better, but we should develop with this, especially with the guru, with the spiritual guide. And I'm not talking about the person that for us is the spiritual guide, but about the kind of relationship that I have. That is a relationship based on trust, where we develop a relationship to which we aspire, where there is love and gratitude. And this is something that for us is fundamental, no matter with who that is. But in general, when we talk about the relationship with the spiritual guide, it's an argument that since the beginning, since the beginning of Buddhism, many masters have always avoided talking about that. Even if when we get into the traditional teachings, one of the most important things, very often they avoided talking about this. Like masters coming in the West and starting to teach about the path, the fundamental part, that is the capacity of trusting a spiritual guide, they skipped that. Why? Because there is a huge danger that the person that is speaking about that is also the spiritual guide, then is kind of misinterpreted as saying, look, that you should love me, and then it's understood in a completely wrong way. I'm not saying to me, I'm saying that we all need in our life to have sane relationships of love and trust. That is fundamental. To have people in our lives to which we aspire, that are an example of life, that are showing us, look, the sane human being is possible. That is fundamental for us. Because when we have even only one relationship where inside of us there is a feeling of love and of receiving love and of mutual trust, and to aspire towards that person as an example where we see the light, only to have that unique relationship and to connect with that has a huge effect on us. I don't know if this is clear. Me, a while ago, was explaining the practice of Guru Yoga in a very simple way, going to the essence of that practice. I don't want to get into that now. And after a while, when the people told me, look, Lama, thank you, I'm doing that practice, I'm doing it with the grandma. I've said, beautiful. And this person said, look, the person for me, that is the person, that is the example of love, of someone that I trust, someone that I want to be is my grandma, and so I become inseparable with grandma in this Guru Yoga. Beautiful, great. There is not the category that the grandma is not a lama and that she can't. No, it's not like that. No, first the grandma needs to become a geisha, and then maybe. We're not talking about that. We're talking about creating these relationships that are fundamental for us. And we also need to be able to protect them and to take care of them. And so we must be patient with ourselves because we are made of habits and yes, we are boring. But at the same time, the more we interact with situations, with people towards which we aspire, with sane concepts, slowly we go and absorb all of that and to transform ourselves. The difficulty that we here have is that we are not children anymore. Or is there someone here that is still a child? No, I think not. And so we believe that we already know. And so the process of learning to know again, starting from ourselves, it needs time. It needs a lot of repetition, a lot of going back there and living again, experiencing, in order to slowly change our perception, change our way of living the world and ourselves. And that's why we need repetition, 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 repetition. And this process, in this process, is fundamental the human connection that we go and create in general. That's all for today. I want to thank you in general for being together here in this path. Without getting long into that. And also here at the center especially. That's all. Let's get to the dedications because otherwise we make use of these days, of the following days. I will try to be the most present here. That's also why tomorrow and the day after tomorrow I want to do the self-healing practice in the morning, because from here until the end of the year I will have to do many trips, actually until more or less February. And so because of this I will have to go now in this weekend. I have to go to the Netherlands, then Spain, then in the United States, then we go back, then there is the course, then I go back to Brazil, then I go back again. So there are many things in between. So let's try to use at the best the moments that we have together. So let's do the self-healing at 8:30 together.
Kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chokchur gepa dang lo san tempe drume sasum ki drove munsel taktu ne gyur che kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dralme cheki chi sadan lamge yunde rabzone Change kopa nyorto sho nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delekshin nintsen takto delekpe koncho sumki chingi lo kuncho sumki ngodrubo tsol, kuncho sumki trashishu. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you everyone. Have a good day.